Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are back once again to do a PLE predictions video, this time for Halloween Havoc, being put on by NXT. This is set to take place this Saturday, October 25th, 2025, in Prescott, Arizona, at the Fenway Toyota Center. Per usual, we will go through each match and we will cast our predictions, let you know what we're thinking, and yeah, just kind of let you know how we're feeling about the card as a whole. So, per usual, these are in an order that doesn't really matter, but makes logical sense, at least to us, as to what order they would appear in. But in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter much. We'll hit every single match per usual. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the first match of the night, which has, per the last episode of NXT, has Leon Slater and Javon Evans going up against AAA's Mr. Iguana and Parka. KP, um, I really wanted this to be the rematch of Leon and Javon, but this is a nice little band aid for the time being. Eventually, I think we will get that again. But how do you see this one playing out? I think Laparca and Mr. Iguana are both two very charismatic individuals from AAA. So this, I think, at the very least, this should be an entertaining contest.
Entertaining, yep. Fun, yep. It's gonna be pretty chaotic, right? I think whatever you look at it, all four of these guys, they're just so unique in their own ways. Javon and Leon, especially, with their just absolute daredevilish, high flying abilities. Yeah, I think this one will be a lot of fun. And obviously, like you mentioned, the charismatic duo of Mr. Iguana and La Parka. I just think there is a lot of a lot of interesting things to take from this contest. I really am looking forward to it. If this does start the show, I think this would be a great way to kick things off because it will be high energy, it will be fun to watch, it will be engaging and entertaining. So yeah, it's got a lot of factors in it that will make it for a really compelling watch. Like you, I was very much hoping for a another instance of Javon versus Leon, but like you as well, I'm more than happy to have something like this because I think they still are teasing it. So I think it will happen eventually down the line. I'm not sure when exactly it will take place, but I'm sure when they eventually do get it, completely said and done, it's going to be fantastic. But yeah, this one looks really good as well. I'm excited for this matchup. In terms of who I think is going to win, um, there isn't really a lot of build because it literally just happened on this week's NXT, so you can't really say because of like a guaranteed reason, I guess. But I think just because of where Javon and Leon are going, and like if they really are teasing the title match between the two of them, to happen again, then I probably would say Javon and Leon get the victory here. That just is my gut feeling with this one, I reckon. Mr. Iguana and La Parka, I don't think they really need to win as such, but they're going to be a hell of a lot of fun to watch. So I think that's going to be the main takeaway from getting them on Halloween Havoc here. So yeah, a little bit more AAA exposure, which is always great, and these two are always fun to watch as well. But yeah, I'm going to go with Javon and Leon to win. I just think that makes more sense in my head, kind of gut feeling for sure. But yeah, like I say, when there's no build, it's very difficult to really get like a chronic sort of like a standout reason. But I guess just gut feeling is enough for me right now. Leon and Javon to win. How are you thinking this one's going to go, Nick?
Yeah, I think the gut feeling is pretty much what I'm going off of, as well as you mentioned the build, or lack thereof. I don't really think it's needed in this instance, though. From both an athletic perspective and an entertainment perspective, this one should have a bit of all, and lots of it, if you will. But this is probably, at least for me, this is probably the second most confident I am in a prediction throughout the video. Only one other match I think I am more confident in. But as entertaining as Parka and Iguana are, I can't see them beating two of the brightest stars of both TNA and WWE. So that's kind of what my pick is being based off of. But yeah, that being said, the actual matchup we want, I think they know. So we'll eventually get. The only way I could see them losing is if Javon and Leon started, butting heads, but they haven't shown any signs whatsoever of that happening. And especially from WWE NXT's perspective, they usually tease that quite a bit if they are going to do something like that. So I don't see that happening, and I see Leon and Javon getting the win here in what should be one of the most entertaining matches of the night. Getting on to the next match, we have Zaria, who is taking the place of Ruca to defend that Women's North American Championship, going up against Blake Monroe. Now, I still don't know if Zaria wins, if she becomes the champion, or is she simply just making sure it is under Soul's name? I'm still not sure of that, but I'm sure they'll clear that up here. And regardless, it doesn't change how I think the match is going to go. But KP, how do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, you already highlighted it there. It's a kind of interesting, dynamic going into this one. Is Zaria technically the champion? Will she be the champion afterwards? She says she's defending it in Soul's honor. So yeah, it's a bit of a grey area there, I think we can say for safe. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure exactly where that sort of stands. But in terms of how I think the match is going to go down, I am pretty confident in this one. I don't really see a scenario where Blake Monroe doesn't walk out with a championship. I think it's pretty much nailed on for me personally that she's going to win this contest. Because I mean that eliminates all doubt then, right? Obviously we've got these question marks over Zaria being the actual champion or not here. Yeah, we can ask that all day long. But in terms of if Blake just wins the matchup, we know she's the champion, so it's nice and simple and straightforward. So yeah, I in my head it just makes way more sense for Blake Monroe to win. I don't think I would have gone with Sol Ruca if she was still in this matchup. I think I probably would have gone Blake Monroe still. I just think that this feud, obviously what could have been between Blake and Sol, it would have been probably like a really great moment for Blake Monroe to beat Sol Ruca and to elevate her status, as the women's North American champion. But then also would have given Sol Ruca another opportunity to go from here out, into other situations. Yeah, I think it's going to be Blake. Like I really can't see a scenario where Zaria wins this one. So I'm pretty confident in Monroe walking out here. I just think it makes a lot more sense, and it just seems to be the right call for me. So yeah, I'm going to go with Blake to get the victory here. But it is interesting, that Zaria dynamic. I'm fascinated to see how she's presented. At the start of the match, if she actually holds the championship, if she's declared the champion or whatever, or if they still do say Sol Ruca. I really am interested to see if that happens or not. But yeah, let's go Blake Monroe, and we get a brand new North American champion crowned here at Halloween Havoc. What about you, Nick? Where's your head at with this one?
And KP, please interrupt me if you know better than I. But I'm still not 100% sure if Sol Ruca's injury is legitimate. Now, based on that, I'm assuming I would have seen tons of it spread throughout the IWC telling me that this injury is legitimate, because any other injury we've seen over the last 6 months, we see it tenfold before we see it mentioned on main. So I don't believe this injury is legitimate because of the kind of the scenario being played out here. It feels like this is probably going to be the catapult that they've teased forever, and that is the feud between Zaria and Sol Saruka, if you will. So I think that's what's going on here. It just feels so sudden. It just feels so awkwardly put out there. The announcement even felt like something was off about it. So I think that's what we're doing here.
I know you
This
gave.
keeps.
Sorry, I know
Go
you
ahead.
gave
Yeah.
me the option to interfere if I could, and I will do. There were videos on social media went around over the weekend of Sol Ruca being carried backstage by Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss and Zaria at the end of the matchup. She was hobbling, towards the back area. So I think rumor mill started to go around there anyway, and then yeah, it wasn't really any update until I think it was just before NXT started. I think Sol Ruca about an hour beforehand or whatever it was, maybe a couple of hours before, she announced that she had something to say to the WWE universe. So yeah, I don't know. I guess that it's really just that one video that we saw. I don't have any reason to believe it's not legit. I think it probably is, but I mean, it would be a really interesting and unique way to kick things off between Zaria and Sol Ruca. That would be really cool. So in your head, if that was to be the situation, would it be a case of Sol Ruca feigning injury and then becoming a heel? Is that where your head's at?
It seems to be an option, and just the fact, even if there is a video, hey, there was lots of videos on Seth Rollins. So just damn WWE for making us question every single thing they say or do.
True.
Because like we've seen so many times, unless I see a surgery recovery photo or something like that, I'm always on the skeptical side. Like, I don't believe you. So
Fair enough.
yeah, and the actual brace that Soul's wearing, it looked nasty. So much so that I don't know if it looks so official that makes me question it even more. So yeah, I'm regardless, we'll just go into the predictions as it being, it could be either way. I don't believe it's legit, and I didn't think Seth's was legit either. So we'll just go off that. And I'll throw it either way just in case. But like we said, I think we mentioned it on the NXT recap. I think the end result is the same regardless. It's just a matter of what they do. I think having Soul being injured, I think that protects her a bit too, and that if this match originally was going to take place, obviously, like you said, I do think Blake is going to get the win. I think the North American title has been put on the back burner a little bit more than it should, and so I think Blake getting the title here will have that kind of put back in the limelight. Um, and if Soul is somehow at ringside or something, I could see her costing Zaria. So even if the injury is legitimate, they could still catapult that. Well, Zaria lost my title or something like that down the road. So yeah, I think yeah, I'm like 75% sure it's not legitimate, but regardless, I do think Blake's going to win here, and it is crazy that we live in a world where Blake Monroe is going to get a title before Jordan Grace. Considering how much shorter of a time period she's been here. But yeah, that's my final answer. Something about this just feels off to me, and maybe I'm just too skeptical. Maybe that's just the problem here. But yeah, regardless, Blake Monroe to win and your new Women's North American champion. So, with all that spiel, let's go ahead and get into the next match. And that has El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr. going up against Ethan Page, who is defending that NXT North American Championship on the men's side. And this is going to be a Day of the Dead match. KP, any chance Ethan Page loses that title here?
I think my first question is, what is a Day of the Dead match? Like, is it just some sort of gimmicky thing? There's going to be loads of like, I don't know, like sort of Dia de Muerta style stuff around the ring, and basically kind of like how they do like those like Miracle on 34th Street Fight or whatever they do in the past. I don't know if it's going to be something like that. I'm kind of interested to see how that's going to take place. So my mind's already running wild, thinking about how that one's going to be presented anyway. In terms of, your question of whether Ethan Page, does have a chance of losing his title, I personally don't think so. I can't see that happening. It seems unlikely to me. I think that Ethan's in such a great run at the moment, and I don't think this is the right way of sort of ending it just yet. I'm not saying like he's immune to it being ended just yet. I mean, I think it could happen given the right opponent at the right time, but I don't think this is the right opponent or the right time for it, personally speaking. So yeah, I think Ethan Page will retain. I think he'll hold on to his North American Championship, and yeah, I'm just very fascinated to see what this match is really going to be. That's where like my main interest is. I just want to see exactly what I'm expecting, because at the moment my brain's just literally going round and round like what could this really be all about. So yeah, I think this one's going to be great. Ethan's been killing it recently. Wagner, he's top quality whenever I see him in AAA action. So I'm looking forward to seeing him back in the ring again. But yeah, the two absolutely killing it. Put on a fun matchup in whatever is going to happen during that match. Yeah, sign me up. I'm definitely keen for it. So yeah, I think my mind's pretty much made up. I'm going to go Ethan Page retains, and yeah, we'll go from there, I think. But what about you, Nick? Are you as fascinated by the stipulation as I am, or are you just more really focused on the result and who's going to win this one?
So I think in terms of the stipulation, I think you kind of are on the right track, at least in my opinion. I think this is essentially a no DQ match, just themed a little differently this time with the Day of the Dead, like your Miracle on 34th Street or the Hardy Compound, essentially, or the Broken Rules match. They all have these different names, and they all basically mean the same thing, more or less. So I do think that is, but yeah, I haven't seen one, so I am looking forward to seeing what actually plays out. I think it'll probably be pretty heavily themed, with Day of the Dead stuff. But in terms of the actual match, I don't think it'll be that much different than any other no DQ match. But I love to be proved wrong, so maybe it will be. In terms of the actual match and result, something about the Ethan Page getting his own strap, the Canadian theme strap. I honestly think that makes me think he's not going to lose it for a long time. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone with that. So for whatever reason, that gives me like an extra confidence booster to pick Ethan Page. And I think when he does eventually lose that title, it's going to be a bigger and better build. This one has been a decent build and a lengthy one too. In terms of how long they've been, not a fan of each other, but in terms of like, back and forth promo type stuff, really hasn't been a ton in that regard. So, yeah, with that, I wouldn't put it past Wagner to eventually win this title from Ethan Page, but I think it would have to be like a two or three more matches down the road. Um, and just a continued rivalry to finally get the better of Ethan Page that one time. But for now, and what we've had and what we've built up to, yeah, I don't see Ethan Page losing quite yet. So, yeah, that's my final answer, Ethan Page to retain. So with that, we are 3 for 3 halfway through the predictions, agreeing on every single one. Let's see if that changes with this next one, because I think this is one of the ones from an IWC perspective that has people talking and kind of wondering. And I think the biggest part of that is Tatum Paxley, as we alluded to on the NXT recap. This is her third year in the business, Tatum Paxley, and her first NXT, officially her first NXT PLE match. So, with that being kind of combined with the very appropriately themed PLE and Halloween Havoc, I think that has people maybe just wondering, just thinking. Obviously, Jayne was pegged as this transitional champ, but has been champ for quite a while now. Definitely working up there, and the defense is looking great. So, KP, where's your head at on this one? Of all competitors Jacy has faced for the NXT Women's Championship, I don't feel like Tatum would be the one that would kind of jump off the page to take her down, but maybe that's why it works. So, curious to see where your head's at. Who you have coming out of this one as NXT Women's Champion?
A bit of a think about this one, like over the last couple of days, obviously since watching NXT, and I think just the way they presented it at the end of the show, it made it look like Tatum was, was is definitely a credible threat to take this title from Jayne, and I want it to happen. I'll happily say that I would love this to take place. I think it'd be absolutely brilliant to for it to occur. I don't think it will, though. I think Jayne will retain. I think that's just my gut feeling, but also makes a bit more sense to me because is Izzy Dame really, as good of a friend to Tatum Paxley as Tatum thinks she is? I don't think so. I could see maybe Izzy, I don't know, getting a bit jealous or something, or finding some sort of way to cost Tatum Paxley from the title here in this matchup. Yeah, I mean, that's where my head's at. So obviously you've got Fatal Influence anyway. You've got Fallon Henley and you've got Lainey Reed, who are going to be on the outside, and they're going to be interfering regardless. So already Tatum's, 1 against 3 in that respect. But if you add Izzy Damon, possibly going to be, just being jealous and interfering and, doing something like that, there hasn't been like a telltale sign of that happening. This is purely just me speculating here. But I can see, because it's a big event and it's a big moment for Tatum Paxley, I can see Izzy trying to take some of that spotlight away from her and trying to really just just knock her down a peg. Izzy was obviously frustrated that she didn't win the Battle Royal, and I feel like it's not quite the big sister little sister mentality, but I think it's like the next closest thing to that we've seen between the two of them. I think at the end of the day, Izzy would prefer herself to, be getting these opportunities, and that's a pretty reasonable stance to be in. But yeah, I think some sort of shenanigans to do with that, I reckon, does see Jayne retain. I could be completely wrong, and maybe it won't be anything like that, but that's just where my head is. Maybe Tatum loses, then Izzy, turns on Tatum afterwards. I really don't know exactly how it's going to happen, but yeah, in my head, it doesn't really make much sense to keep that sort of thing going. I really think that an event like this, in Tatum's literally her first PLE singles match, I think this is a good opportunity to, to really sort of like create that that story between her and Izzy Dame, and then it just goes from there. So yeah, I don't know. In my head, Jacy retains here, which is unfortunate because I don't want it to happen. I want Tatum to win, but Yeah, I can see Jacy holding on to that title. Still the women's NXT champion at the end of this one, I think, is Jayne. What about you, Nick? There's a whole lot you could really make a case for in this one. I guess really even Lyra Valkyria, she's been in and around the conversation recently as well, coming down to see Tatum Paxley, celebrating with her when she won the Battle Royal. Just backstage conversations as well. I guess she could play some part too, maybe. But how do you think this one's going to go down? This is quite a difficult one for me personally. What about you, though?
Yeah, definitely one of my least confident ones this match, and it just feels kind of like you can play both sides of it. Is this the perfect storm with Halloween Havoc and Tatum Paxley, obviously, or is this is that too obvious? And this is just the only reason Tatum was selected was because of the Halloween Havoc themed PLE. Yeah, you hit on a couple good points. I think if Lyra were to come into play, I don't know if that would be for the better or worse. Obviously, Izzy not loving having her around, so that could potentially cause some issues there. Also, have the other members of the Calling, if they are to come into play, maybe they could counter the other members of Fatal Influence. So that's an option as well. Uh, yeah, but if it is just Izzy at Tatum's side and the other two members of Fatal Influence, I think that one's pretty cut and clear. Uh, that Jason would probably retain just because of the numbers game. That's why she's still champion. That's why she's won, quite a few matches in the first place. And further to that, Fatal Influence's newest member, Laney Reed, just having been included, I feel like it would be too soon to have some additional conflict or turmoil in that group so quickly after being added. So I think that's the biggest reason why I think Jacy will retain, simply because of Laney Reed being our newest member. So trying to pick the stock back up for them. And yeah, you kind of hit on it too. Izzy was visibly very upset after she didn't win the number one contender, but then this last week on NXT was all smiles and whatnot. And so yeah, I'm not sure if I'm buying that either. But I'm not sure if that will come into play quite yet. I think that'll probably be a slow burn, as most of these things are or tend to be with WWE and NXT. So yeah, with that, I do think this should be a fun contest, but and I think a great way to show off Tatum Paxley's ability and ceiling. But I do think this one just doesn't feel quite right to have Jacy lose at this point. So that is my final answer, Jayne to retain. Getting into the next match, I don't believe it's been announced, at least since I've last looked, and I think they've been using that to their advantage. But two members of DarkState here will go up against Matt and Jeff Hardy in a Broken Rules match for those NXT Tag Team titles. As announced on NXT, this will now be a Broken Rules match. Does that help or hurt the Hardys? Or are we given those titles? Was this just a moment thing? Did the Hardys win this match and win these titles just for a moment, or are they actually going to hold on to these titles for a while? Obviously, DarkState was on quite a roll, had quite a bit of momentum going into that tag match, and for me, it was a bit of a surprise. I think you mentioned you did think the Hardys were going to win, but for how long do they hold these titles, KP?
I don't think they're going to hold them for a long while. I don't expect that to be the case. I do see the titles going back to NXT at some point. Do I see it happening in this match? I'm not sure if I really do. You've got obviously being the Broken Rules contest here that is going to be between the four of them, between the four of them. And naturally that probably will mean it's going to be no disqualifications, which means that legally the other two men of DarkState who aren't competing can basically just compete as well. So, yeah, I guess you could really say that DarkState have it written here just to absolutely just bulldoze the Hardys. But I have a feeling maybe Leon and Javon aren't done with DarkState. I reckon they maybe could get involved here and sort of like take the two who aren't competing technically, away somewhere, and they can obviously dispatch them from the situation. So I think maybe that will then leave it down to just Matt and Jeff, and then obviously the two legal competitors of DarkState. So I think, just with my head at the moment, I think I'm gonna go with the Hardys retaining. I don't see them holding off the titles for too long, but I don't quite think this makes sense to have them lose this matchup. I really, really don't. Especially when Javon and Leon are sort of like around the conversation. I just feel like they're going to be an equalizer and they're going to help out the Hardys here, and it's going to be a retaining of the titles here for Matt and Jeff. So yeah, that's basically sort of like where my head's at, my understanding of it, my thinking process. Yeah, I don't see DarkState winning the titles back. I think it could happen down the line, maybe, sure, but no, I don't know. I don't feel it happening in this particular matchup. That's just my general sort of approach to this one. But I'm looking forward to it. It should be a really really entertaining contest. Broken Rule sounds great. Excited to see what exactly that does sort of implement throughout the entirety of the contest. I'm sure it's gonna be crazy. It is the Hardys after all. So yeah, I mean I'm just looking forward to it. I'm really keen. So yeah, Hardys to get the win, to retain, and yeah, with some assistance as well. Nick, how about you? Do you see some sort of added extra from maybe Javon and Leon, or are you thinking that we're just going to have new tag team champions crowned, DarkState get the win? Where is it going in your direction?
Yeah, so I do think the broken rules will come into play. I think that has to be, at least if you're the Hardys, that has to be a way to combat the numbers game that DarkState would typically have. And Javon and Leon are busy. Already on this event. So does that prevent them from helping here? I don't know. But you could obviously make the case that maybe someone like Hank and Tank could come and help the Hardys, or just anyone who doesn't like Darkstate. Darkstate has quite a few enemies. So, maybe the next team that Dark State goes up against could be the ones to come out and help, or at least try to help the Hardys. So I think there's no shortage of people that could assist the Hardys based on all the people that Dark State have wronged over the last few months. But with that being said, like I said, I was pretty shocked that Dark State lost, because they had quite a bit of momentum going into the tag match. So yeah, for me, it feels like that was just a moment. So, probably hinted and foreshadowed by my question towards you. I do think Dark State is the right team to have those titles, and I don't think the Hardys need them. I already have a set of titles themselves. So, I actually do think Dark State is going to win back those titles here. Feels like OTM is being built up to be their first defenders, or their first members they would go up against. So, I feel like with that, yeah, I just think Dark State has had too much momentum and still has. I feel like it didn't take away a ton of it. Just the best tag team on NXT right now, in my opinion. So I feel like WWE is just not going to let the Hardys keep those titles for too long. So I think Dark State, and that is my official answer. And the first time we've disagreed on a prediction. So um, could be the deciding factor when come reactions video time. So yeah, Dark State, my final answer here. But I think the match itself should be a ton of fun. I'm looking forward. Just the promo video for the Broken Rules match was very entertaining. So I'm extremely excited for this actual match to see how it plays out. And with that, let's go ahead and get into the main event, I would assume, and that would be Tricky Williams going up against Ricky Saints for that NXT championship. I mentioned earlier my second most confident pick. This would be my most confident pick. KP, I'm assuming your head is pretty much in the same spot, but let us know if you're looking forward to this one and who you have coming out of it as the winner.
I am looking forward to this one. This one is clearly probably the biggest of the men's matches that that we could probably have in NXT right now. Trick Williams just coming off the back of losing his TNA World Championship, and obviously he wants to get back into the title picture once again. Doesn't want to be out for too long. Ricky Saints only just picked up the championship after defeating Obafemi, so naturally he's in the very early time of his run. I can't see Ricky Saints' run ending yet. Like, it seems way too early for me. If you got somebody to defeat Obafemi, then naturally he's probably going to hold that title for a while, just to sort of establish some sort of stronghold over the division, just to prove that he was the guy to beat Oba. I genuinely think that him losing the title here would be probably a very big missed opportunity. Trick Williams, you could argue, is probably in the the run of his life right now, just unbelievably killing it at the moment, to be fair. And that's coming from me. I'm not Trick's greatest fan, but I can respect recently in the last couple of months he's been absolutely smashing it. So just generally speaking, I think this will be a really good contest. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, I think Ricky does get the win, and Trick Williams losing this matchup, you could question, what is next for him after this. I personally think he's probably going to be going up to the main roster very, very soon. So if you believe rumors, there are apparently call-ups going to be happening at some point soon. I can't see why they wouldn't go with Trick Williams at this point. So yeah, for me personally, I think Trick's done what he's needed to do in NXT. There's nothing really left to him to accomplish. He's not going to go for mid-card titles. He values himself too highly in his current character to do that. So yeah, he's not gonna go after like the North American title, for example. Doesn't make sense to at the moment anyway. But yeah, I just genuinely think that Trick's time in NXT is over. So he'll probably have this one. Maybe it could be his swan song here, and then we see him like, I don't know, on SmackDown or Raw coming up very, very soon. So yeah, I'm definitely all in here with Ricky Saints. I reckon he'll retain his championship, and I'm just excited. I think this is going to be a really good matchup. I'm really looking forward to it. So yeah, an opportunity to see these two men, a little bit of history between the two of them. They clearly don't like each other, a bit of animosity. Obviously, we just had Ricky put Trick through the table on NXT this week. So that you could say, he was the last man standing in that situation. So that normally means that the other person wins. But I think in this case, it doesn't mean that. I'm pretty damn sure that we're going to have Ricky Saints retain. And yeah, maybe the end of Trick Williams in NXT. Who knows? Maybe I'm just overthinking that particular part. But yeah, I'm excited for it. It should be a really good matchup, and looking forward to seeing how this one plays out. But yeah, Ricky to get the win. What about you, Nick? What are you thinking here? And what about that Trick Williams dynamic? Has he done everything he's needed to do in NXT?
Well, to answer your last question there, yes, absolutely. Trick has done everything he needs to do in NXT. And funny enough, a lot of my points are similar to yours, so I'll just simply gloss over them real quick. And that is, Trick doesn't really have anything else to do on NXT, and I do think he will be called up on main sooner rather than later. A loss to Ricky doesn't hurt him. Win for Ricky very much helps him in defeating Oba in the first place. That monumental win for him to shoot him up the card and confirm that he is a big star, and then having him beat Trick on top of that. Those are two excellent ways to start a reign. And so, yeah, this is my most prominent pick of the night. Ricky will absolutely win. And I think it will be a pretty good contest as well. Yeah, I think in terms of matches, probably the one I'm looking forward to most. I hope this is a great match, and I think you kind of hit it on the head too. I think you know Ricky getting those first two wins is just a great way to start, and him losing here would make his win over Oba seem almost pointless. To have him overcome the ruler, just it would be all for naught if he were to lose his first defense to Trick. So yeah, I think Trick, and we obviously haven't seen Oba either since losing. I think both of these guys are pretty much done with NXT. Could be wrong, but that certainly feels like where it is headed. So with that, 5 out of 6 agreed on picks here. So we'll have to wait and see. Maybe we're in for some surprises. The Halloween Havoc obviously denotes a typically kind of crazy environment. So maybe we're missing something here, and we'll have to wait and see. And we'll obviously discuss that on our reactions video. But with that, that is all 6 matches here on NXT Halloween Havoc. KP, one final bit from you. Which matches or match are you looking forward to most, and how are you looking forward to the card overall as a whole?
I'd say the match I'm probably most looking forward to is the Day of the Dead match, the North American Championship contest, just purely for the fact that my mind is running wild at the moment. I want to see what exactly it's gonna be about, how it's gonna go down. So yeah, I think just generally my imagination is just going a bit crazy at the moment. So that's something I'm really looking forward to. In terms of like a matchup, just between two guys that I think is going to be really, really good and great, I think probably Trick and Ricky Saints. So I think generally speaking, the card is really solid from top to bottom. There isn't a match I'm not looking forward to. It's kind of like it's difficult to really pick out, a couple of matches here that I'm most looking forward to, because I am looking forward to all of them. I think in their own rights, they're all looking very, very appealing, and I think they will be all very entertaining in their own ways. So yeah, I'm excited. Just across the board, generally, it's a really solid and strong looking card. So yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a pretty great show. Just general, look at all the matches. I can't see how it wouldn't be. It's I think it's going to kill it. So yeah, I'm excited. Just generally speaking here, just looking forward to a really really solid, from start to finish, very engaging and entertaining show. So yeah, I'm excited for that. Percy speaking. What about you though? Do you have like one standout? I know you mentioned you're particularly very much looking forward to Ricky and Trick, but yeah, is there anything else that stands out to you here? Maybe you could think could be a sleeper match possibly going into it.
Yeah, I think first of all, you hit it pretty much how I was going to, and that is there isn't a weak match on the card, at least on paper. So I think this is one of the stronger looking NXT cards we've seen in a while. So yeah, I don't. There isn't one match I'm like, yeah, I don't really care about that one. Uh, but yeah, in terms of ones I'm looking forward to most, obviously the Leon Javon match I think should be a ton of fun. But yeah, I think the Hardy Broken Rules match. I would say that one probably piques my interest the most outside of the actual match in Trick and Ricky that you've already kind of alluded to. So yeah, looking forward to this one as well. And yeah, I'm hoping for a couple of surprises because the fact that we agree on 5 to 6, which we usually are on the same page, but 5 out of 6, I'm hoping there's some talking points at least. I'm sure there will be. So in a reactions video, we'll hit those in great detail. So yeah, with that, Halloween Havoc predictions are in the books here, and we will be back shortly with the SmackDown recap as well as the Halloween Havoc reactions. So soon enough we'll be back with those, but in the meantime, if you disagree with anything we put out there or have any comments to add, please do so, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, as that helps us out tremendously. But with that, this has been the latest episode of The Push with Nick and KP, and until next time, we'll see you soon. Take care.